Hello friends, my name is Hitendra Chaudhary and I welcome to all of you to iTube classes. Friends, today I'll be talking about a very important current affair topic, which is high fuel prices in India. As we already know that the price of the petrol is hovering around 100 rupees per litre in India. Even in some cities like Ganganagar in Rajasthan or Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh, where price of the petrol even has crossed 100 rupees per litre. So it is a great matter of concern. In today's video, I'll be talking about the possible reasons behind the high fuel प्राइसेस इन इंडिया। लेकिन आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं आपसे अपील करना चाहूंगा कि प्लीज आप हमारे यूट्यूब चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन पर जरूर क्लिक करें सो दैट इन फ्यूचर व्हेन वी अपलोड अ वीडियो यू कैन गेट द फर्स्ट नोटिफिकेशन। तो चलिए फ्रेंड्स वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं। So friends, like any other problem out there, we cannot say that this is the only reason which is behind high fuel prices. So it is an interplay of different reasons finally which led to the high fuel prices in India, which is hovering around 100 rupees per litre. So I'll be going into much detail for each and every reason. Look, there can be many reasons. It is the international scenario because during the time of COVID, during the time of lockdown, most of the economic activities around the world was halted. So demand for the fuel was decreasing. And now because economies are recovering and world is opening up, so that and demand has gone up. So is that the reason? We will look into that. Weak rupee and strong dollar. Look, what is happening over a period over a few months? Rupee is getting weaker and dollar is getting stronger, and when this scenario happens, imports become costly all the time. Is that the reason? High taxes. Look, there are many taxes which are introduced, or there were some taxes which were already existed. Now government has increased those taxes. Is that the reason? We will look into that. Or it is just a plain mismanagement from the government's end. We will look into these reasons in much detail. So be with me. Friends, now look into the components that decide for the fuel prices. First one is freight charges. Look, India is not producing lot of crude oil. So we cannot fulfill our demand domestically. So we need to import lot of crude oil from the outside world, like from the Middle East, Iraq, Iran, UAE, Saudi Arabia, etc., etc. So we import that oil through the shipments, and this is the charge for the shipment. Second one is your dealers commission, because there are so many intermediaries and the dealers through which we do that sort of deal, like financial transaction or something else. So they also charge some commission. It also decides the fuel price. Central excise duty. Now what is this excise duty? Look, excise duty is an indirect tax. It is imposed on the products which are produced and then marketed or which are sold later on. This is central excise duty. Look, when GST was introduced, this is an indirect tax, we already know that. So GST, when GST was introduced, a lot of indirect taxes were combined together, but still there are few products, or there are few dimensions which are still out of GST regime. First one is your petrol. Now you tell me in comment section that what is that second commodity which is outside of the GST, which is not included in GST. So central excise duty, petrol and diesel. Recently government has increased central excise duty, यानी कि indirect tax on the petrol. It was earlier 19.98 rupees only, but now government increased it up to 33 rupees. On diesel it was earlier 15.83 rupees, but now it has gone up to 31.83 rupees. Now you can see the difference. You can see the difference. And the fourth component which decide for the fuel prices is your state VAT, value addition tax. Many states over these like 1 year, they have also increased their VAT. Now look at this scenario. Look at this scenario. Base price of the fuel right now in India in February 2021 is 32.1 rupees only. It was 47 rupees in May 2014. So we can clearly see from here that base price was higher in 2014. It is reduced in February 2021. Now look at the central taxes. Central tax, which was around 10 rupees in May 2014, but now it has gone up to 32.9 rupees. Now you can go for the difference. State tax, in case state VAT, it was around 12 rupees in 2014, now it is 20.6 rupees. Commission, it was 2 rupees, now it is 3.68 rupees, and the retail selling price at which we were getting petrol, it was around 71 rupees in 2014, now it is around 90 rupees, but in some cities it has even crossed 100 rupees. So we can clearly see the difference in the when we go for the central taxes and the VAT, central excise duty and state VAT accounts for the 60% of the fuel price. This is the most vital reason why fuel prices are going so high, even more than 100 rupees. So if we want to tell somebody that what is the reason behind this, so we will say, look, there are so many reasons, but the primary reason is high taxes. Primary reason is the high taxes. Now, apart from increasing central excise duty and the state VAT, one more cess is also included in recent budget. It was agriculture and infrastructure cess. It was introduced in the budget. What is the meaning of cess? Cess means tax upon tax. Cess is imposed when government is in the need of some money for the specific sector, like for education, like for green technology or something like that. So cess is also introduced on petrol. On some products it is introduced 2.5 rupees. And for the diesel it is around 4 rupees. So now what is going to happen with this? So definitely it will also help increase the price of the fuel, right? There is a cess and there is a tax. What is the difference between cess and tax? Look, when money is collected through cess, this whole money goes to the central government. There is no money out of this which is given to the state governments. This is completely from the center. Now, excise duty. Money collected as an excise duty goes to the Consolidated Fund of India, and from Consolidated Fund of India, that money is distributed between center and state on the recommendation of Finance Commission. So now because government has also increased excise duty and the cess also, so this whole scenario increased, or this whole scenario led us to the high fuel price in India. So we can say that high taxes is one of the most important reason behind recent high fuel prices. Is it the only reason? No, there are other reasons also. So let's discuss about the other reasons. So now look at the international scenario. What is happening internationally? Rise in the crude oil prices. What is the meaning of that? Crude oil. India imports lot of crude oil from the Middle East countries, and this crude oil is what? We extract petrol, diesel and other many type of product from this crude oil. We do not import petrol and diesel as such. We import petroleum, or we can say crude oil. Now look at the prices. In April 2020, price was $19 per barrel. It is very, very low. Why? Because at that point of time, all over the world, transportation was at hold. Economic activities were not going anywhere. Most of the economic activities were ceased throughout the world, and as a result of that, demand was very less. Because demand was less, so price was also very low. But now in February, economies are slowly opening up. Transportation is also slowly opening up. So as a result of that, demand is increasing gradually. Because demand is increasing, the price of the crude oil has also increased. In February 2021, it is now $65 per barrel. Right, so that is the scenario. Because now price of the crude oil is increasing, so overall price of the petrol and diesel has also increased, because crude oil acts like a raw material for petrol and diesel, and now because the price of the raw material is increasing, so finally price of the petrol and diesel has also increased in India manifold. Increased demand, so that is the scenario. Because in February most of the economies were at down, recession was going on, there was no demand in the market, but now demand has increased and so the prices. Next is reduced supply by OPEC. What is the meaning of OPEC? OPEC means Organization of Petrol Exporting Countries. So it's a group of 13 countries, and all these 13 countries, they produce 44% of world's total crude oil. This is a huge percentage, and apart from that, all these countries contain 80% of proven total reserve in the world. This is a huge percentage. These 13 countries, and this was established in 1960 and headquarters is in Vienna. These 13 countries control the supply of crude oil throughout the world. And who controls the supply? They also control the prices. So what is happening now? These OPEC countries decided that they would cut the supply of this crude oil, and now because they have cut the supply of crude oil, so there is a lack there is a lack of this crude oil in the market, and now because demand is high, there is less availability, so prices are soaring up. Apart from that, OPEC countries, Saudi Arabia has taken some extreme steps. Saudi Arabia decided that now they would cut the supply of the crude oil by 1 million ton or 1 million barrel per day. It's a huge cut. Now because the action of the OPEC and Saudi Arabia, though Saudi Arabia is also a member of OPEC, no doubt without that, in that, right? So because of this huge cut, now there is a less availability of crude oil in the market and prices are very high. So we can easily imagine when price of the raw material increases, definitely price of the finished product will also increase, and crude oil acts like a raw material for petrol and diesel. So this is something which is happening internationally. So now because we have seen the international scenario, so can we expect that internationally prices of the crude oil will go down anytime sooner? Yes and no. Look, there is a very possible likely scenario that prices internationally will not go down anytime sooner. What is the reason? First reason is stimulus. What is the meaning of stimulus? Stimulus is provided by the banks in the USA to the US economy. And when stimulus is given, it means money becomes cheaper in USA. People get loan easily on very low interest rate. And when this happens, dollar becomes stronger. And when dollar becomes stronger, rupee becomes weaker. And when rupee becomes weaker, everything that we import, it becomes costlier. Why? Because for the import, we pay them in dollar, and now because dollar is becoming stronger, so we need to pay more, and lot of crude oil we are importing because we are not producing crude oil so much domestically, and because we need to pay in dollar for the import of the crude oil, so it will become costly and costly. Next thing is tension. What is the meaning of this tension? Look, there is lot of tension going on in Middle East between different countries like Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Israel and UAE, etc. And when this tension becomes, or when this tension is there, so what happens? Because of this tension, political instability is a likely scenario, and when this happens, price becomes very high because people are not sure that in future this supply will continue or not. And that speculation or that possibility of a demand being reduced in future, it led to the high fuel price rises. So what is the impact of high prices on people or on economy in general? First one is inflation. Inflation means महंगाई. So it means price rise of the goods and services. So for the products, to transport from one place to another place, we use transportation, and in transportation diesel or petrol is used. Now because petrol and diesel have become costlier, their price is high now, so now transportation cost becomes more, and this more or this high transportation cost is finally transferred to the consumer. So every consumer good becomes costly. That is the inflation. So this is how high fuel prices will lead to high inflation. It is also bad for the farmers, especially those farmers who use engines and the diesel engines, or you would say. So what happens in the case of weak monsoon? In the case of weak monsoon, farmers use tube wells and they use engines and they consume diesel. If there is a good monsoon scenario, so they don't need to put so many effort in that fuel engine. But if monsoon is weak, for the irrigation purpose, they use lot of engine oil, and that engine oil becomes costly, and now it will impact the farmers. The input cost for the crops becomes more. So that is whole scenario about this high fuel prices. These are the some reasons that I have discussed. I have discussed international scenario. I have discussed domestic scenario as well. So that is all for this, and I will request to all of you that please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell button also, because in future if we upload some video, you will get the first notification. Thank you very much and all the best.